Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. First time presenting at SteelCon, and yeah, second time here. First time presenting, and right at the end of the day, penultimate talk. I'm on the water. I haven't had a beer yet. God knows I've walked past them and thought, should I? I thought, no, I shouldn't. So talk is called From Stuxnet to Stuck Without the Net. Those you lot here, basically, and me. Just been in the last talk, seen quite a bit of corroboration with what Steve Mitchell was just talking about. So you're going to see some similar themes there. We're going to talk about the concept of how this industry has changed. A not particularly techie talk, not particularly techie person, but we're going to look at some of how the industry trends have changed from one type of attack to another. So if you want to tweet me, obviously there's the hashtag more important than me, but if you want to, there's my Twitter. Honorary slide, day job in Info Security Magazine. I've done some other things as well, so that's probably less important. So we're talking about ransomware, and the big thing I really wanted to talk about here was essentially the reason why I covered ransomware. This, but anyone here was at Security back in February. This was kind of it's a much more improved version of the talk I did there. That one was pretty rubbish, but essentially what I want to look at was how we've moved from the big worms that hit us in sort of about 6-7 years ago to ransomware, which is where we are now. And we saw the immediate change with disruptive attacks, moving from very heavy espionage attacks. So here we are in July 2017. Remember the month, and we're talking about ransomware. Many years ago, essentially we moved from the big worms, and we were talking about worms. Lots of cultural references. You're welcome to cheer if you see one you like. But yeah, essentially, we moved from worms. This one's got a mention, but Stuxnet identified 2010. They were targeted industrial systems, and particular nuclear systems in Iran. Please no attribution. Lots of attribution claimed for this talk later on. We can all have a laugh then. Targeted machinery on production lines, essentially what makes stuff move. Dooku, very hard worm to illustrate, so there's no copyright here, is there? September 2011 was detected. Looks for information that could be useful in attacking industrial control systems. Gathered information very heavily. Flame, that was picture editor's dream, this one. 2012, targeted cyber espionage, especially very targeted the Middle East once again. This was about espionage. Very, very, very clever stuff. Could build its own certificates. Anyone who was, I'm probably sure a lot of you were around then, can remember stuff about Flame, very clever. Gauss, really a step forward, collected as much information about infectious systems as possible, stole credentials, social media stuff, was distributed in the Middle East for 10 months, actually, it was going for. And then, in fact, longevity, Red October. Do your own impressions, so I won't. Discovered October 2012, and been going for 5 years, actually, incredible. This was going for, and it extracted files, emails, keylogging, used keylogs, collected keystrokes, web browsing history, and their lives protected by Kaspersky Labs, so kind of a big kudos to them, really. They did some great work around this time. But these were detected, say, from Stuxnet 2010 to Red October 2012, kind of every few months something big was coming up, and I kept saying to Kaspersky, are we ever going to get to a stage when they've all been detected? I mean, alternatively, am I going to be here in 2017, that's probably 5 years ahead, thinking, am I going to be talking about something that was operating then, that they hadn't picked up on? We haven't seen a lot of this, why? I'm going to get onto some reasons why I think why that is. So, these were kind of, these espionage tools, they targeted diplomatic, governmental, and scientific research organisations all around the world. And upon discovery, especially I think with Red October, there were 60 CNC domains. They were all closed down like that because there was someone controlling it. Again, talking about sophistication. So, kind of post that time, we got to 2013, and it suddenly seemed that everything changed. Was every God I want to drink? Were all the big worms detected? Was nothing happening anymore? Were we at a stage when everything was okay? Well, yes or no. Oh, thanks. Or was it just the case that attackers got a bit lazy? They thought, well, we've done it all. We can't really be bothered anymore. Is it because detection's gone away? Detection got better. We mentioned Kaspersky, ESET, CrowdStrike, lots of companies, SecureWorks, sponsors today. They're doing a great job. Maybe people just don't really think it's kind of worth it anymore. So who knows what things change? Well, maybe also there's better return on investment in a different type of ransomware, and that's what we moved to. We moved to ransomware, so I'm going to leave you with Terry Jones for a moment. Crypto ransomware. Now, I think, as Steve has just alluded to just now, nothing new about ransomware. I think the original first piece of ransomware, I think was the PC virus, something like that. Someone correct me on that. Late 80s, I think. So nothing new about this, but all of a sudden we started seeing a huge amount more, and it was being utilised in cyber instances, effectively, and infections. And just a few statistics here. This one I got this from McAfee. They collected unique samples of bad stuff. Really hard to illustrate. They're from their 2013, June 2013, they showed they collected over 250,000 unique samples of ransomware in the first quarter of 2013 alone. A lot more data, a lot more movement around. That's more than double than they had in the first quarter of 2012. So all of a sudden, everyone's picking up on this ransomware thing. So it led me to think, what was the cause? What happened in 2013 that really... The two screens thing's kind of weird in me. And this one doesn't look as colourful as that one. So, what changed? What happened in 2013 that changed the world? Changed the hackers? I tell you what. Frozen. Released 2013. $400 million at the box office. That's what changed. Every hacker went to see Frozen. They wanted to build a snowman, and they thought, let's do ransomware instead. That's one of many things. 2013 was a busy year. Barack Obama was re-inaugurated. Richard III skeleton, Alex Ferguson, retired Andy Murray. Was going to win again. Who knows? I don't even know what's happening in the tennis. Nelson Mandela died. Lots of big stories around that year, and also things like Chelsea Manning was sentenced, obviously out now, which is great. Pope Benedict resigned. Lots of other things. I started thinking, looking at all these headlines, and I thought, what changed in 2013 that really made espionage end and destructive ransomware begin? There's one big story. Everyone's favourite IT boy and contributor to the masses. So he is, obviously, no one's shared out his name yet, so I'm assuming you all know who he is. But, Ed Snowden, Teddy, he, 6th of June 2013, he leaked details of the NSA surveillance programme. 3 days later, he outed himself to the world, to the reporters, everybody learned who he was. And 21st of June, he was officially charged by the US government with various computer crimes. And as a result of that, he ended up in Russia. 2 days later, in 1st of August, he was granted a 1-year temporary political assignment in Russia. Well, maybe that's what changed it. Maybe as a result of Snowden, maybe everyone thought, actually, we don't need to do espionage anymore because the governments are doing it for us. Let's try and find some new tactic. Let's find a different one that works. And my God, it actually is quite a successful one. So, Edward, thanks very much for everything you did. You're still around. So they have to shift gear. And ransomware, as we said with the McAfee report just then, suddenly increased huge amounts of volume. The capability's there. People are finding out ways to do it. And, it's bloody successful. So we look at, the other options. Well, the FBI were warning on this. This was sort of thing we started to see a bit more. And the FBI, they determined it on 2 different types. This is from an FBI release that I found. 2 different types of ransomware, locker and crypto ransomware. One that locks the files, one that locks down the sort of the desktop, effectively. And, that they offered to be serve, something else has gone, probably the ransomware. Anyway, they offer some advice saying how it encrypts, offering, the full screen, tells you what you're supposed to do, who you're supposed to pay, blanked out here, to find this on Google Images. And obviously it's from the FBI, so you think of it as genuine, you act upon it, and bang, maybe you pay, maybe you get your data back, maybe you don't. Very uncertain world. But that was an uncertain world. This was a stat from 2017, from January. Radware's report, 49% of businesses are being subject of a ransomware campaign in 2016. 27% shows data leakage. Yeah, that's very nice for them. So I'm not here to explain to you what ransomware is. Hopefully most of you have probably heard about ransomware by now, but instead look at the statistics that are really starting to rack up now. 49% of businesses confirm being subject to a campaign. Look at another one. This one is from February 2017. Ransomware doubles since July, according to Checkpoint's report. Locky ransomware was the most common type. It accounted for 41% of all ransomware attacks. Getting bigger and bigger. Also found that Locky was number 5 malware overall. That's all types of malware. And config is still a problem out there. Steve just mentioned it just then. Who knows how many of those flame instances are still going on. And, in terms of other ones, I found this December 2016. What I found quite interesting here, this from CNBC. Email-bound ransomware increased 6,000% in 2016 compared to 2015. And the very interesting paragraph sentence is this one, or the middle one at the bottom. 50% paid more than $10,000, 20% paid more than $40,000. Now, obviously, the advice out there is you probably shouldn't pay because there's no guarantees you're going to get it back. But if that's the amount you're going to pay, maybe you should think twice anyway, because you don't know where that money's going, you obviously don't know how it's going to be used, you don't even know you're definitely going to get your data back. So that's the situation. So the stats have proved that it's actually very successful so far, and this was kind of up to the sort of the present day, really. I need to pick a few instances just from this year. A story I found from January 12th, January 15th. An attack, or probably ransomware, affected 123 or 187 CCTV cameras in DC. Locked them all down. 70% of them that record the data were knocked down by ransomware. Any link why? Because 5 days later, Mr. Happy ends up in the White House, January 20th. So, people hit the ransomware upon the CCTV network. Sorry, I'm going to take that off him. And knocks the CCTV cameras network of Washington, D.C. out just before old Trumpy gets into the White House. It was seemingly online because, 5 days later, maybe they managed to restore it. Quickly onto that. Austria, the Romantic Sea Hotel Jägerwert Hotel, paid thousands in Bitcoin ransom to hackers who had hit the electronic key system, locked everybody out of their rooms. There was a few questions made about this story, how genuine it really was. The fact is that this hotel was hit 3 times by criminals who actually wanted to get into the key system. The guests couldn't get into their rooms, and it just shows the impact on a physical location of ransomware. We talk a lot about endpoints being hit and companies being locked down. This was actually a case of a hotel being locked down. Pretty severe. What about this one? This was not Hill Valley, Valley College. Good photo shows. Attackers seize file, email, and messaging systems and ransom them for $30,000, saying somewhere in this, you have 7 days to send us the Bitcoin. After 7 days, we will remove the private keys. So not just here to try and, delete the files, they're going to remove the private keys. So those files might exist still somewhere, but as a result of what they're doing, they're actually just going to knock themselves out of it. So actually, it's a pretty big deal, actually. And just one more thing I found very recently, actually, from March 3rd. You can not really see it. March 3rd, this was Senate Democrats in Pennsylvania were held cyber hostage. I love that term. But hit by ransomware. It hitting government, as we saw, it hit a city grid, it hits a college, it hit everyone. Everyone's getting affected. And pushing on to this slide here, this is from CyberEdge. 61% of organisations have been infected with ransomware. Obviously, that's based on who they've actually surveyed. But in terms of that, it shows just how widespread it was. It's getting quite big. So that shift from all those espionage campaigns of leading up to 2012, now we're into this constant thing. This is from March 2017. About healthcare. We'll get on to healthcare a bit more later on. But according to an FOI made by Sentinel-1 to 129 NHS trusts, 30% had suffered a ransomware attack. Well, one, which was Imperial College Healthcare Trust, suffered an attack 19 times in just 12 months. Really very, very serious stuff. What are they doing to protect themselves? Get on to that a bit later on in case you're wondering where I was going. And just one more thing on healthcare. This was actually, I just found this the other day as well. 27 million healthcare records were stolen in 2016 across 450 reported data breaches. That's 26% caused by ransomware. But one thing that's very interesting, of course, here is right in the middle. Only 9 healthcare organisations, go the other way, reported malware or ransomware breaches. So no one's actually reporting this stuff. They're all getting hit. If you get hit by ransomware, is the first thing to do call, well, if you find people, just call like Robin Wood, give them a call, say, Robin, come and get me out of this situation. You call the police. Who's going to call the police saying you got the ransomware? Going, yeah, so is the rest of the world, mate. Sort your life out first. It's a very difficult situation. And this is another statistic I found from the Internet Crime Report. This is last year's Internet Crime Report, which I thought was pretty interesting, actually. Ransomware is formed in 2016. The IC3 received 2,673 complaints identified as ransomware. Losses over $2.4 million. This was last year. All these statistics, you can throw them all into a big bucket and they all look, comparing and contrast about who's actually being surveyed. But it's a big deal. And as a result of that, I think, well, surely the eyes of the world are on ransomware right now. Everyone's taking this very seriously. People would say to me in the street, or not literally, I get called up in the middle of the street and, hey, you know about ransomware. But people would say to me, is ransomware a big deal? And I'm like, yeah, you should probably back your stuff up, and take it a bit seriously because it's very easy to get infected. So kind of a May 12th morning, I was, idling myself by in the office, kind of looking forward to the end of the day when I started getting some words around of a new infection. And second 80s music reference of the day. Now you can shout out if anyone knows this one. There's really no Godly and Creme. Yeah, it's Cry. Godly and Krem from 10cc. Thank you very much. I thought everyone would get a 10cc reference in a conference. Yes, Wanacry. Groundbreaking video for its time. Now looks just like sort of really dated, actually. But yeah, Wanacry. It was, it appeared out of a flash and knocked the world out, to be quite honest with you, including me as well. But, what's quite interesting, and I need to speak to him. If ever Kevin is here, I don't know if he is in the room, but Kevin Beaumont, 19th of April, he says, prediction, ransomware worm using SMB uses equation group exploit to worm across the world and encrypting process. If he had modified that, and I won't be annoyed, but I'll be quite impressed. If he predicted that a month ahead, then the man deserves a medal, because why the hell didn't we act on that? That is exactly what Wanacry was. It was a ransomware worm.
I did. I employed Kevin.
What?
I did. I employed Kevin.
You employed Kevin? Oh, right. Well, thanks for answering my bloody calls. Tried to get him for info sake, but he wouldn't respond to me. Anyway, no. I mean, yeah. We'll ask him if that's a genuine. I think that is genuine. It's Twitter, so hopefully it's pretty genuine. But if he's made this prediction, we knew about this equation group release. It was dumped in March. Microsoft issued the patch initially, obviously not to all Windows platforms. We know about that. SMB was open. Maybe the repercussions of that weren't particularly known about. It wormed its way across. We never thought that was going to happen, really. But of course, one by one, everything started tumbling. Telefonica, because of the ledge there. One of the biggest ones, the Spanish telco. We actually did a session with them at InfoSec, and the UK CISO did actually say that was very contained to Spain. He didn't say it affected any others, so they did some pretty good stuff. Probably the biggest casualty, excuse the pun, was the NHS. 16 organisations were affected by the Wanacry, the cyber attack issue, as they kept calling it. Renault, another one, shut down their sites after being hit by their attack. But yeah, there were lots of stuff around. Lots of screen, lots of stuff. Now, of course, we don't know if all these are genuine, but it just serves to prove that, very stylish looking thing. I mean, we've all seen this 100 times now, but I'm going to try this side for a change. It's a nice looking design. It doesn't take over the whole screen. It just, it sits in the middle, but it's very, very kind of identifiable. Everyone knew what it was all of a sudden. And people in this room, this conference, this industry were all very, very aware of it very quickly. And there was some great work on it, which we will get to. And, even on the high street, quite literally on the high street, again, I'll trust that this was a genuine picture. Even, the advert here. Now, it does look like that's actually not backwards. I was going to see if that was on a bus stop and it was being mirrored, but it does actually look like it's genuine. Even on the high street, getting hit by ransomware. So, what did we learn about ransomware? Very, very quickly. Cases like this. Is there Paul Proctor from Gartner. Very lack of global readiness for a ransomware attack. We knew about this. Statistics are out there about how much ransomware was growing and growing. But what we didn't expect was it to be probably hit so hard and so widespread, just like Wanacry did. And in terms of advice, we'd warned about backing up, we warned about patching and turning off unneeded features. Great talk this morning, by the way, by the guys about Chrome extensions, post-ransomware. Has anything changed? Should we be doing anything differently? Talking about the basics just before. Same thing again, all these different problems. Maybe they're the same problems, security basics. Could have actually stopped ransomware, also Wanacry in particular, from spreading so much. So general kind of 5 steps, a lot of 3 steps about protect, detect and respond. We've maybe moved on with ransomware. We've moved from protect and detect. And we can we protect our assets? Maybe you've got to know where assets are, part of GDPR. Detection, there's a lot of prevention versus detection arguments still going on, which is better, figure it out, people. It's about response. We're seeing huge industry sort of best practice on response now. And in the case of response, people are sort of thinking about instant response has turned up as pretty much an industry vendor sector now. Companies offering all kind of GUIs that fit around your network and able to tell you when stuff happens. It's getting quite a big case of it now. In terms of the worldwide press, thanks to Graham for this slide. Nicked it from his slide deck, but he, all the world's press had all of it. And credit to him, by the way. He doesn't know I borrowed it, so he does now. But all world's press everywhere. Everyone's covering it. It's great to read some of these actually. And hacking. Every time someone mentions hacking, I try to say it's not really hacking because I think hacking is like one person or one group doing one thing on one person. This was an attack. This was widespread infection. Really quite a big deal. What can a security industry learn from this? Great comment by Quentin here. Use this. I think it came just security basics just before. He spelled Wanacry wrong. Opportunity to have conversations. If it's been on go back again, been on all these front pages, all over the news, every type of media, everyone's talking about it. It was all over Twitter. Use that to say, let's get that basics right that were mentioned just before. Improving it makes sure we're not vulnerable to all of this stuff. Intelligent CISOs, hope you are listening. But what about looking back a bit? Going back to those espionage things, Wade here. Are we scared of worms again? Have we shown that we're actually quite capable of, that malware is quite capable of actually moving around quite laterally? And, the good old days, the love bug, the Cornucova, etc. All of a sudden now we're back with Wanacry, and it's worming its way through a protocol that, to be honest, I've never even heard of before. I think SMB, I think of small, medium business. I don't think of some. I'm going to give my best side, by the way, Chris. And we don't think of anything more. We think of these things. We learn about SMB. In any case, most attacks, you learn about things for the first time. Maybe myself, some of you have been around, a bit longer. Maybe you've heard of these things, but you don't think about these things daily. It's not probably the biggest thing you learn about. For me, the great kind of thing about Wanacry was just the opportunity to do a little bit of alternative learning. So I haven't checked Scott's sticker table if he has got any Wanacry ones. Jeremiah did these. I think these look great. This is the best one though. So no. Needless to say, I thought I'd have a go. So that's my desk. I thought I'd scare the hell out of my colleagues. And so I realised that you can't actually see any of your icons on it at all. They're sort of here. You can't actually see your desktop, so I went with that one instead. So, anyone know that one? XP. The XP, yeah. That's actually still my desktop now. Everyone goes, "Oh, that's nice and retro," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's the idea." Try and make sure IT walk past and have a heart attack. Just the sort of fun I like to have at the office. So, one of the things we learned about was Windows vulnerability. Obviously, this was Kaspersky. Again, more great research over the couple of days. The initial research, or initial claims, we should say, probably less research, was that XP was to blame here. Was people still running XP unpatched? But actually, as it turned out, the Windows 7. So you can't see this very well, but that's the 7 one there. That also 7 as well. Actually, all 7 mostly. Version 7. Actually, the only one that was really pretty locked down actually was 10. So I don't know how many people. I'm not running Windows 10. I think I might be now actually, but I've just been upgraded. But all Windows things were unsecure really. Everything was vulnerable when it came to Windows. So it was all about trying to keep up with this. And laughs aside, this was one more thing that I thought was worth a laugh. Yeah, no one else is coming now, are they? This was in Australia, Melbourne, Australia. The local traffic authority had to cancel almost 600 speeding tickets because they were locked down by ransomware, and they weren't able to, or of course, Wanacry. So actually, some people benefit in Australia from this. They didn't have to pay. Maybe they paid out as well, but certainly they weren't getting charged for their speeding tickets. But this, of course, Marcus Malware Tech. This was 10 days later. Well, so 22nd of May. More than 100,000 unique IPs per day were connecting to the sinkhole that he was able to create. I took this screenshot literally last night, and there we are, 600,000 infections effectively globally. You can see regionally where it's maybe not hit so much, but certainly in this whole area, Western Europe. Maybe kind of interesting here, sort of Central America was very impacted as well. This was, 600,000. Who knows? Try that in a week's time. Maybe you're watching this on the camera. Have a look again. Malware Tech, give him some more hits and see how much he's able to actually that's been collected by. In terms of the numbers, this was, of course, May 15th was the following Monday. 200,000 machines that made only 50,000 worth of Bitcoin. I had a quick look at the wallets last night, and so where we're actually at with the stages of payments made. The last payments were made to the 3 wallets associated with Wanacry on June the 16th, June the 20th, and June the 28th. The total payments were, I worked this out, so numbers are kind of a little bit uncertain, but 38,000, 34,000, 28,000, that's actually about $100,000 for a weekend's work, which you're probably never going to see that sort of money, are they really? Because obviously once the Bitcoin wallets have been accessed, the feds are going to be onto them pretty damn sharpish. So as it goes, we'll get on some other ransomware stuff earlier on, but when you talked about those figures I did about a few minutes ago, about what millions being made from ransomware, this guy, whoever this attribution was, made purely only $100,000 in probably the most sort of notable attack in memory, probably since Configure. I can't think of anything since that. And, of course, there were other victims. This was probably one of the shittest, pardon my language, PG talk, instances to come out of this. He seems to be doing pretty cool now. I'm not going to apologise for bad journalism, but unfortunately there are these things. But another thing that Wanacry led to, which I found very interesting actually, was the case of attribution and who's to blame. I'm going to get some conclusions, obviously, when I get to the end of the talk, But in terms of actually who's to blame for ransomware and who's to blame for Wanacry, is it for the people clicking on stuff? Eric's a very nice man. If you get infected, it's your fault. Well, actually, I think Space Rogue, probably most of you know him, stop blaming the user. This is the problem we've got. If we're blaming people for doing stuff, a lot of the time, is it people just doing their job? They're trying to act immediately. They're trying to click on stuff because that's the way we work now in this world. Blaming the users the problem. Attribution in terms of this one. This, of course, was the first nation-state finger was pointed at North Korea. I don't really know if it was North Korea. I don't particularly care, to be honest. If it was nation-state backed, which maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. The problem is, it's not a matter of who did it. The fact is, how do we pick people back up again and stop this from happening again? It kind of did happen again, didn't it? It didn't make a lot of money. It was stopped very quickly by a guy acting kind of selfishly and pretty much for free. So that's a sophistication if it is nation-state sponsored. This is related to a different attack. This was the parliamentary email attack of a couple of weeks ago. But in Henry Smith MP, I'm not sure where he's from, but here we are. This is from an MP who doesn't probably know much about cyber. We're under a cyber attack from Kim Jong-un, Putin or a kid in his mum's basement or something. Even in a case of a attempted brute force attack on government email, they're all thinking it's North Korea. I think I don't care if it's nation state. I think that the problem is we're too focused on who did it and not about how it happened and how we stop it happening again, because it did happen again. And my mugly mug from my magazine. But Ukraine business is hit by Petya. This was a couple of weeks ago, 27th of June, and it did happen again. And we were off again. Very similar traits to Wanacry, although seemed to be a lot more sophisticated. Although it died off very quickly. This story didn't have the persistence that Wanacry did. But some of the companies hit there, but very patient zero hitting Ukraine. As we probably know now, hit off with some dodgy tax software called MeDoc, which distributed out to lots of users and mostly hit Ukraine. Obviously, some of the shipping company and some others were hit by that. There's your man again. That's his second and final mention. This was very, very early days, 5 o'clock on the day of it impacting. What we knew initially, of course, then we started off with, is it Petya, is it not Petya, is it whatever it's called? Do you know what? Does it matter? I'll reference that in just a second. But again, more global impact. Some of these might be Photoshop. But sophistication I thought was very interesting compared to Wanacry, because Wanacry had that very nice looking, very stylish, window frame there on your desktop. This is red text on a black screen saying, oops, excuse me, your important files are encrypted, don't waste your time, nobody can recover your files without our decryption service. Pretty scary stuff. I really want to hit you at it. But this is the analogy, I think, that sums up all of attribution. Is the problem is when we're not focused on trying to recover ourselves, we're focused about who did it and blaming the people who did it in the first place. So I thought Martin was very, very good with that. So moving on to more special cases, less special cases of ransomware. The FBI, this was sort of kind of about last year-ish. They said, the thing came out saying that they were encouraging people to pay their ransomware. That's very hard to find now. But they said don't pay. So mixed messages from the biggest intelligence, well, the biggest country when it comes to intelligence anyway. And, what should people do? People don't know. If they say a $300 amount, they're going to think, well, I'll pay that. That's not a big deal. Other things are slightly more. But it doesn't really matter anymore, because if you actually are thinking of dishing out some ransomware, it's a crime in California to distribute malware, ransomware. In case it was, actually a good laugh before. Now you can actually you can get sentenced for it. So great report by ours there. Yeah, actually, I'm surprised it took so long for them to think that malware was a bad thing. But ransomware's a big issue. But in terms of the numbers then, so Wanacry was paying $300, asking that so was Petya, $300, $600 after 3 days. This is a reference to that IBM story I showed earlier on. 50 Cent paid more than $10,000. This was from January 2016 report. $10,000, $20,000 paid more than $40,000. Prices going up. Well, actually, prices have gone back down. So my theory is that were they hitting very high profile targets before, and now they're hitting everybody, thinking, well, let's hit 20 people and ask for a smaller amount than hit 2 people and ask for a larger amount. Maybe that's the way ransomware's going. You know, who knows? Who knows what the next step's going to be with all of this thing? This, right, better look at this one actually, because it's got the shelf in the way. This courtesy of Andrew Hayes, very, very nice man. He published this, and actually this was my original concept for this whole talk, actually. It's not particularly the greatest thing to show on a slide, but this was based on some of the hospitals that actually were impacted. And you can see the amount there, total revenue. In particular, keep your eye on Hollywood Presbyterian, so it's top 5 related to the bottom 5. It was like 40 frames long, so there's no way I was getting that on a PowerPoint. The Hollywood Presbyterian Medical Center, the average loss, they lost $10 million due to impact, just the ransomware impact. And the ransom was $17,000. Did they actually ask? I took some of these people when I was writing this article, which I'll get to a link to. 17,000. Why did they ask so much? They think you're a hospital in Hollywood. You're probably going to have a lot more money than Methodist Hospital, Kentucky. We'll only ask you for $1,600. That's the demands, and now it's dropped to $300. These economics of ransomware are really changeable. You know, it's surprising that these things happen, but you know, there's no consistency to ransomware money at the moment, or to ransomware infections. It just seems that anyone is going to get infected, and let's slap a big thing on your screen, hope someone pays it, because we'll get a payday somehow. Also look at the states that were hit: California, Kentucky, Texas. No consistency there, apart from the 3 California ones, but 3 different parts of the country. So, in terms of the types of ransomware, then, CryptoLocker was probably one of the best known. It was taken down in 2014 as part of a sinkhole run by the National Crime Agency and a few others, government agencies. And upon its actually being taken down in 2014, had actually gathered together $3 million US. It was created by a gang who had done some bad stuff. Those who initially were infected were asked for $400. So back to that ransomware that Petya was asking for, or equivalent amount in Bitcoin. The victims had 72 hours to pay. So even this was 3 years before, and we saw the numbers go back up, they've come back down again. I don't quite know why that is. There's that Big Mac index. You ever look at that? There's quite an interesting thing about it. That's basing the value of malware, not just basically ransomware, but certainly malware payments anyway. Crypto wall. Sorry. This was the FBI's Internet Crime Center issued a warning about Crypto Wall, saying it had been contacted by 992 victims. This was in 2015, and combined losses were about $18 million just to Crypto Wall alone. And also, I just found this also as well last night. This is from a website called Barclay. The average ransomware demand had risen to $1,700 to just over $1,000. And this was the 2017 report. So I'm back and forth here. You can see how the numbers are going up and down. And maybe it's because it's different attribution. Maybe it's because it's different people who are behind this. Maybe it's just the case that everyone's a bit lost as to who actually is asking for what. There's no Wikipedia entry going, you must ask for this number if you hit this person, or shoot it up, ask for what you like because they'll pay it anyway. So this was according to Symantec. The jump corresponds with an increase in attacks specifically targeting businesses, and a further indication that attackers are setting their sights on higher value victims in search for a larger payday. Once you've actually infected, maybe they are going to thinking, right, who have we got? Oh, that's worth it. We've hit BP. They've got a bit more money than Steve's Sports Goods in Sheffield. Let's ask them for a bit more money. So one of the things I wanted to look at was where ransomware has come from. To take it all the way back to the beginning, in terms of the shift from espionage tools to ransomware, and I found some details from Microsoft which claimed that malware or ransomware particularly gets in via visiting unsafe websites, opening dodgy emails, or clicking on bad links on social media and Skype, which basically makes a lot of sense. So the thing I guess I wanted to look at and conclude with, I guess as I sort of come towards the end of this, was to look at how security, I guess I'm trying to be a little bit controversial, has enabled ransomware to come together. Because you look at the combination of factors, look at all the press coverage. I've done quite a lot today, and heck, I write a lot of it. We do a lot of coverage on ransomware. Why? People read about it. It gets a lot of traffic when we talk about ransomware. Our numbers go through the roof when the Wanacry and the Petya stories because people want to know what's going on. Encryption, Steve was talking about just before, the RSA, various levels of encryption. It's damn hard to break. And I don't know how much quantum crypto is actually used now, but encryption's at a level where people just can't break it with an open key and get out of it again. I think one of the key factors that's been a real problem with helping ransomware succeed, or helping it succeed in the first place, is a lack of advice on how a victim can get themselves out of this grasp. We're in this little information security bubble, and it's fantastic to be at SteelCon here. But ultimately, the problem is that once we get outside this our little room here, our conference here, does the average person know about this cyber hack that happened sometime a few months ago? And that's probably much they know. And they should change your passwords every often. And, oh, look, new things to download in your Facebook. Great, fantastic. It's a combination. And also like the immediacy thing I mentioned earlier on. And society's led to this kind of reaction of maybe we should pay, maybe because it's cheap and get yourself out of trouble. So maybe we should look at ourselves. But ransomware is kind of a malware developer's dream. We keep talking about it. We keep fueling the fire in doing presentations about ransomware. We're fueling the fire in how and the amount of attention we give it, and people think, well, this works. Let's act upon this. The circle keeps going on, and unfortunately for that reason, I don't think we're at much of an end when it comes to the end of how ransomware is going to work. So, pick up one case. This was from 2014. So I mentioned the CryptoLocker ransomware. It wasn't hype at all with CryptoLocker. It was pretty damn serious. But this story appeared. CryptoLocker victims get their files back for free. When the sinkholing of CryptoLocker by a number of companies and a number of government organisations on 6th of August 2014. This is from the same story. An online portal was created where victims can get the key for free. This was organised by a couple of companies, including Fox IT and FireEye. You can go on there, you can get the key, get yourself out of it. Great. I thought that was quite interesting, actually. 6th of August 2014, just under 3 years ago. So let's have a look and see if that website, this is the screenshot, is still working. Oh, no, it's not. DNS error, it's gone. Decrypt CryptoLocker.com. If you're on a phone, I hope you're not listening. Have a look. It's still gone. I did a check this last night, and I was like, why is something that's a website, that news story, is still there? Why is this not there anymore? So I checked this, and this is according to FireEye. No longer providing decryption solutions for CryptoLocker. That's not very nice of you, is it? So I went to, at this point I have to refer to my notes. So I went to them, to both companies, and I said to them, why is that the case? They with Game Over's use group, and I said, why are you not doing this anymore? And I spoke to Martin at Fox IT, and so he said to me, I said, why is this page not live anymore? And he said, CryptoLocker was no longer being spread because, of course, it decreased because of the takedown. Because the term CryptoLocker is often used for type of ransomware, victims were giving false hope by thinking our service could decrypt the files encrypted by the ransomware variants. So basically, everyone who was hit by CryptoWall was going to that thinking, oh, I'm going to get myself out of this. Oh, no, I'm not. So I said, because of a takedown, it's no longer to be a threat, so it was discontinued. And he said, yes, to not give victims of future ransomware infections false hope by coming to our website. So, big thanks for that. The story appears, and pretty much it's gone again. And it's a real shame, because this could have been a real help thing for people if sort of things like this continued. Something did continue. No More Ransom. This appeared last year, I think. It's sort of 2016 project led by a number of people, including the police and a few others. And a lot of vendors are getting behind this. They've got somewhere decryption tools. There we go. Keys to get you out of things, and they download them. So I thought this is a good thing. So turn Christmas 2016, just before, my marketing team said to me, we need some ideas for polls. To sort of for a few fun things. I said, okay, see how many people know what this is called. Here's the poll results. 34%. Now, there's a few wags in our industry. I'm quite aware of that. But 34% actually got the name right. 29% thought it was Ransom No More. 25% Ransomware Be Gone. I made these up as a joke. And people think that 25%... If anyone wants to nick that and create a ransomware website called Ransomware Be Gone, you're very welcome to have it. Clean your laptop, 12%. Like I said, I know there's a few jokes in there, but... just goes to prove, if people not learning about this stuff, this is an Twitter poll that we ran with Info Security, where we pushed quite a lot of it, quite a lot of retweets, you can see at the bottom, got people to really vote on this, over 114 votes. But if no one knows about this stuff, has this stuff actually made any difference to the industry whatsoever? And that's been the problem, I think, with ransomware in general. So, just to kind of wrap up then, I mean, effectively it's a bit of a money pit now. It's really earning lots and lots of money, and I don't see any end to this situation because it's very, very successful, and it's very hard to help the victims if they're getting stuff like help pages getting pulled the same day they seem to get announced, and then, you know, a ransomware which nobody knows about. So unfortunately the attackers are in a little bit of a beneficial situation now because they're able to launch ransomware that people can't get out of, and as a result, you know, make money pretty quickly. Just a quick look at the where things are going. This was you recognise this, another Ars Technica story. This was a web host in South Korea who paid $1 million ransomware, and just lower down the story, actually they originally asked for $4 million, and they managed to bargain them down to $1 million. It's a bit more than $300, isn't it, really? Again, big target was hit. They thought they paid it, and damn well they got a good payday out of that one. This was interesting. Motherboard reports they will wipe the phone. Rather than just locking it and just, you know, bricking it, they're going to wipe the phone. Maybe get your phone back, but nothing on it. All your photos are gone, whatever. Maybe this is the next sort of sophisticated level of ransomware. Also, of course, ransomware as a service, because eventually everything's as a service, all delivered by the cloud. And ransomware is no different. So the Satan one, this was reported back in January, really shows even unsophisticated people like me could go and launch a ransomware attack. I won't, just for the record, and create your own customized version of that. That's going to be quite interesting if this does become more and more popular, because what we're going to see then is maybe different features, different ways of working, and as a result of that, how's detection going to work? Especially things like behavioural detection and machine learning, which is based on common traits. How actually capable is that going to be of spotting a ransomware that's not been seen before? And if it's new every time, got a new little thing every time, is it going to be detected upon? Okay, quite a difficult one to deal with. So, a little bit early, but hopefully get the lightning talk started a bit early. A few conclusions. So, as I said, the problem's getting worse, it's not getting better. Petya and Wanacry proved that, I think. They proved that actually there's no situation that's going to help ransomware actually improve at all. I think things I'm literally waiting for the next one to happen. To boast that I was on BBC, and the Petya one, they said, when we're going to see you in 6 weeks' time when the next one happens? I'm like, yeah, you probably will, if you ask me back. At the moment, there are a few things bubbling under about solutions. I say a lot of it based at the moment on detection, which probably isn't really good enough. There's a few things appearing, a lot about air gapping, the data, so it's able to be recovered, and detection's getting faster, and maybe machine learning is actually going to start changing things, but ultimately, until people like yourself go and buy this stuff, that's not going to change. But backing your data up seems to be the only point of advice, really. Because if anyone can be hit by ransomware, if you've got the backup to work with, that's going to be the only solution you've got, really. Industry's doing something. No More Ransom proved that, and the decrypt CryptoLocker thing. Yeah, it proved that people are actually out there doing something or other. But is it enough? And do we need something that's got more of a synergy across the industry? Black Hat's coming up in a couple of weeks. Maybe we'll see a new announcement of something big happening. Who knows? I'd like to see a bit more emphasis upon user education. Kind of covered that just already, but at the moment I think we're a bit lost in the language. We're a bit lost in the advice, and ultimately the users, I think, have got no idea what to do. But the main thing is they know what ransomware is, and that's probably one of the key things to know about. And I think if anyone here is building tools, doing open source, or even just work through a vendor, a bit more emphasis upon URL filtering or attachment blocking would actually be quite good. There's some good attachment blocking stuff out there. That might be the future of how we, as an industry, beat ransomware. Alternatively, we might never beat ransomware. We might see a shift to something else. We've already shifted, through this talk, we've shifted from surveillance tools, espionage, to ransomware. Maybe there's something else they're going to move to. Maybe we get bored of ransomware. Maybe it's too easy to work with. They want something a bit more challenging to create. So, just kind of a last slide then, or penultimate slide. This is, I think, the ultimate sort of synopsis of what ransomware is. It's all about security hygiene and actually having a good security suite and doing things well. And if you can do it, as Gavin says, maybe that's the way you can get forward. Slightly better on that one. So, thanks very much for listening. This bit.ly, I'm going to tweet this in just a moment, so I'm on Twitter, Dan Raywood. I'm going to tweet a link to that. That is actually the article I wrote about ransomware, and I'm going to put a link to that now, so you can go and read that. It does require a login, but I'll try and see if I can drop that. And a quick plug, 19th, 20th September is the Info Security Magazine virtual conference. You come along to that. It's a virtual one, so you don't have to join it physically. And with that, thank you very much for listening. Brilliant to be at SteelCon. I'm going to put the water down and go get a beer, so thank you very much.